What are our boundaries in life? How do we know when we've gone too far? When we want to understand something, it's not always as simple as doing research or looking for facts. If the sky is really the limit, how much can we tolerate from life when it doesn't go the way we'd hoped? The truth, in answering any question, is always in flux. When it comes to boundaries, nature has no clear answer. We can set our expectations for the day, but anything can happen in 24 hours, and often we get a kick in the pants when we go out of our way to do something outside our limits. In essence, we have little or no control over what life throws at us, or imposes on us. If a tree falls on our house, there's nobody to blame. If it falls in our personal space, no amount of complaining or explaining will change it. We deal with the situation and move on. Not all issues are out of our control, however. When it comes to our personal relationships, we have more control over our boundaries. And when they're invaded, we have every right to speak up. Each of us has the freedom to believe what we like and live how we choose, so long as it does not infringe on others. So if we do not feel safe in the company of our choosing, we may want to consider our relationships. Often we get into toxic situations and fail to realize it, for we are masters at deluding ourselves and ignoring our problems. Setting clear boundaries for our expectations of others is not selfish or arrogant. It is a first step toward taking control over our personal space and our own minds. I'm not talking about expectations that others should do anything for you, but rather that they should try to understand your needs and give you the respect and space you require. We all have different levels of needs. As an example, for some people, if a guest shows up unannounced, they are ecstatic and happy to oblige. For others, there's nothing worse than an unexpected knock at the door at an inopportune time. Some people are content with friends and relatives who berate them about their lives and see it as loving motivation. For others, they just want to slap you across the face and tell you to mind your own fucking business. The friends we create over time gradually learn to understand each other and embrace their shortcomings and strengths. By the time we are adults, we find that many of our friends we grew up with are merely passing relationships, which dissolve under the weight of true understanding of one another. Or worse, a lack of effort to do so. One thing that I have learned is that it's better to be respected than to be liked. But the two are not mutually exclusive. The most integrated people I've ever observed have found the ability to be liked and respected, something we should all work toward. Far too many folks choose to be people pleasers and fail to realize it, living their lives for others, never considering what they want in their own lives. This causes a resentment to build, often without realizing it, and a person can become corrosive and spiteful under the pressure of others telling them what to do, what to think, and how to feel. Social pressure can cause entire groups of well-intentioned people to follow bad advice from someone who is well-respected, but not wise. In the world today, this is par for the course. Setting clear boundaries will allow you to live a happier life, free from the constraints of others' expectations. That doesn't mean we never help others out, or build relationships. We just do it with the clearly set boundaries so everyone can communicate better. If we fail to identify our grievances, however small, they may continue to haunt us. If others are not aware we are offended or bothered, it is our own fault for being too timid to explain ourselves to them. Be honest and know what your limits are. Some people may need personal time to review their lives and recharge their energy. The introverted person requires it, yet so many feel it's selfish to take time for themselves. The people-pleaser types feel they always have to be available, emotionally and physically, for anyone who needs them at any time. Setting aside time for yourself to grow is not selfish. It's one of the most important things we can do for our physical and mental health. Letting people know you need a few minutes to regain yourself can be liberating, and people will understand. If they don't, that's their problem, not yours. Our energy is precious. Many of us sacrifice our future, while others just whittle theirs away. Then they expect a bailout when the cards are down. Some of us choose to conserve that energy, while others waste it on partying, complaining, harassing, violence, or a number of other selfish things that tend to be unproductive. We all know the intense friend from school who always had to do something extreme, or the adrenaline junkie. Then when the person gets themselves in trouble, they call and ask you for help. Your initial thought is to help them out, but after consideration you realize that the person continues to get in trouble and always needs bailing out, so you set your boundaries with them. I've had friends like this growing up, and had folks in our group ask me why I wasn't friends with the other guys in the group. Later in life, when they were getting DUIs or spending time in jail, I saw that I'd made the right decision to protect myself. Folks who don't care about their own health and their own freedom will never care about yours either. So by avoiding these types, one can protect themselves, at least somewhat, against the unforeseen. Self-preservation is at the core of caution. Do not let others make you feel guilty for standing up for yourself. If you set clear boundaries, there will be controlling people who will try and tear down your borders or make you question your own beliefs, because those who stand up for themselves are a threat to those who want control over them. Nothing is lost by clearly defining your position. It makes you a stronger person, and those who seek to control you will try and avoid you if you know your own power. We cannot always trust our hearts, but we can usually trust our gut, and knowing the difference can be life-changing. Manipulators are always looking for a flaw in your armor, and when they find it, they will stick the sword in as deep as they can to get you to change your mind. Remain vigilant. It only takes one failure to identify your position for someone to misunderstand your intentions and assume you are on the same page. Folks may feel too timid or not want to offend the other person, but if it is something you feel strongly about, it must be done. Stick to your word. Be honest and clear about how you feel. One way to identify those who invade our boundaries is to search your feelings. Ask yourself how you feel when a certain person is around. Is it healthy? Do you have a good time or walk away feeling exhausted? Sometimes toxic relationships are hard to see. We are so immersed in them we cannot see clearly. Avoiding codependency is a tricky one. We are only human, and we can feed each other's addictions and justify our attitudes, especially if we find friends who agree with us. Friends have different needs and interests, but we must use caution not to fall into another's idea of normal if we see it as harmful in the long run. In those cases, we may not be in a toxic friendship, we just have toxic components. We can still build relationships while watching those we love do things we may not agree with. It is subjective as to what we are willing to tolerate. For example, a friend with a bad addiction or a friend who gets into trouble a lot may still be a great friend. We just decide how much time to give and what we're willing to tolerate. Having a friend who steals from you or lies to your face, however, may be worth letting go of. I've personally experienced this multiple times with people I thought I could trust. This means intention is an important component. Does the person really mean to harm you personally? Do they want control over you for some reason? Or are they just having a moment? In these cases, the friend may need our help, and walking away can do more damage than good. That said, only the individual knows if it is best for them. Each situation unique. I firmly believe that those who tell others how to live are the ones to watch out for more than any. The control freaks and the holier-than-thou types. But that's just me. What about family? Here we have an issue that is harder to cope with, as we can't always walk away from those people. And usually we don't want to. We try to work it out and talk about things to see if we can resolve our differences. But sometimes the gap is just too great to bridge. Or the other person merely wants to believe they know best, without question or evidence, and in these cases, it is just best to remain silent. Let those you love know what your boundaries are. If you need time alone, tell them. If you don't like talking about certain subjects, tell them. If you don't want advice on how to live your life, tell them. If others continue to focus on those subjects after you have clearly defined your parameters, then that is on them, and you can choose whether to ignore them, walk away, or take to an argument. Usually, it is not worth a debate. The person is likely trying to push your buttons, so to speak. So speak your mind and walk away. It's not cowardice or defeat to avoid conflict with those you don't believe have the good advice they think they do. It is self-preservation and energy conservation. Save it for the real fights. Another thing that we must do in order to be happy and lead happy lives is to learn to say no. If we're not interested in going to an event that someone really wants us to go to, just say no. Unless it is something of utmost importance to the person, find another common ground in something that you both enjoy. If someone asks you to meet for coffee and you're busy, just say no. If they ask you for a favor at an inopportune time, just say no. It may seem painful to turn people down, but it beats building resentment, and it also tells others what your limits are. My own friends know I never answer the phone, and they deal with it by texting or talking in person. They also know that I don't like surprise visits. I don't like being told how to live, nor what to consume or not consume. And I just like to be left to my own decisions. I still respect opinions from those I love, and I can see my errors and work on them. I have very few hang-ups about others. I learn as much as I can about them, and I'm generally open to all kinds of people. Though my boundaries are always in flux, as I learn and grow, there are certain components that have remained consistent through the years. I don't associate with thieves, liars, cheaters, charlatans, abusers, or those who spend their time talking about others, gossipers, and especially those who judge me or tell me how to live. Others may be able to look past some of these traits. Therefore, our sliding scale of acceptability varies between people, as it should be. But never let someone else determine your values. It takes time, but we have to learn what our values are. We deserve happiness wherever we can find it. Some seek short-term excitement, while others build their temple slowly. There is no right way to live, only what works for us and others. We should never try and change those we love, or make our friends see things the way we do. If the connection is strong enough, people will want to change and adjust our behaviors to better relate to others. We may not even realize we are being controlling or abusive, unless someone points it out. All the more reason to be straight with people, and helps us and them. Remember, relationships should strengthen all parties involved. 1 + 1 should be 3. They should not cause turmoil and anxiety. Check your feelings around other people and stand firm on your thoughts. If they turn out to be unfounded, time will reveal as much. But beware. This does not mean we should call others out on everything we see wrong. It is best to bite one's tongue, unless we feel they are harming our relationship in some way, or themselves. People are complicated. The best we can do is set clear expectations for how we expect to be treated, so others better understand us. If we find people are constantly making us feel shitty, it may be time to let the relationship go. Nothing is lost by cutting our losses. We may find ourselves with very few friends later in life. But it is far more important to have a friend who understands you than one who has an illusion of who you are because you are too scared to tell them to fuck off. Somehow, speaking our minds has become something many people avoid, and by doing so, they open themselves up to anyone who wants to tell them how to think. That is how political control has always worked. Convince the people that you know better than they do, and they will listen to everything you tell them. By setting clear boundaries with others, we are able to lead happier, healthier lives with less resentment and more control over our own decisions. By default, we become more rounded individuals. Never be afraid to tell others how you feel. You may fear scaring off friends, but you will only scare away those who want to control you. Most people have no interest in telling you how to live. Usually, it is those who have not set their own boundaries in life. Don't let them pull you down as well, because they will. Be strong and shit. Thanks for listening.